is just an overview. So I've spent years helping people and organizations build resilient security and postures. And I told you other things about me. And I've been a coach to early career talents too. I mean, I've watched people go from zero to an appreciable level in cybersecurity without even a computer science degree or going for expensive boot camps. Now, the essence of this seminar is just to be able to give you a framework that if I'm starting cybersecurity in 2026, I would use. So we're going to look at certain things, the reality in 2026, what are the truths versus the myths. So pick your lane, and then a 5-phase plan, and what resources and jobs you can do, and also a 90-day action plan. So why is now the best time to start? According to research, it has shown that there are 4 million plus cybersecurity jobs that are not filled, that is vacant positions. And also, it tells us that the demand, to supply ratio, the gap keeps widening every year. Last year it wasn't this much. Next year it's going to be more. And then on the average, now again, this is a disclaimer. I didn't say you will earn 1.5 million naira overnight. No. So we're talking of from entry to mid-level to, when you get advanced, we're talking of ranges from like 400,000 naira. In some cases, you see people earning an average of 1 million, 1.5 million. Again, I did not say that you would earn that overnight. And then 70% of new hires lack traditional computer science degrees. So what does that tell us? That skills, certifications, and the projects that you do, it beats having, for instance, a computer science degree or a cybersecurity degree. So there are some myths, and then there's the reality. So the myth tells you that you need a computer science degree, years of IT experience, and I use this in the Nigerian parlance, an Oyibo boot camp or a foreign boot camp to break into cybersecurity. So now, when you believe this, people may not go in for years because you say, I don't have a computer science degree. I do not, I cannot afford those expensive boot camps, and then it keeps people laid back. Then the reality is cybersecurity is one of the most accessible, high-paying tech careers. Real plan, you will do well. So what we've learned in cybersecurity is, even if I do not have a cybersecurity degree, I don't have a computer science degree or an information systems degree, if I gather skills with certifications and I degree or the diploma that I do not have, and then you can start with nothing but a laptop and the internet. So once you have a laptop and you have the internet, you are good to go. Then curiosity, they say, kills the cat. But in this case, no cat is going to die. Instead, curiosity gives you more skill. So curiosity, consistency, and communication, it beats raw IQ. Having high IQ that is not being put into use is of no use. And then remote roles, are open in the global market, even to Nigerians. So there are some career paths you can take. You can go through the SOC analyst. So the SOC analyst is basically, they call them, the defense of the company. So theirs is to defend the company. You're a blue teamer, for lack of another word. And then you watch alerts. If incidents happen, you investigate, why it happened. Then you are threat hunters. You hunt for threats to make sure that there are no threats on the infrastructure. And it's a good entry door for most people. Then you have the penetration tester. So the penetration tester is one and the same with a hacker, just that he has legal authority to hack systems to find weaknesses before the criminals would. So the hacker is given, or the penetration tester is given authority to act like he's the hacker, and then he tries to penetrate into the infrastructure so that he can try to, bring out the loopholes or identify the loopholes within the infrastructure. And then that way it can be fixed before the bad guys get to it. Then we have the GRC analyst. Now, GRC means governance, risk, and compliance. So you do things like policies, you do audits, you implement ISOs, data protection. Now, even though this is great for non-technical backgrounds, there's something I need to correct. When people say GRC is non-technical security, and I say no, and I'll tell you why. Even though you're not pen testing, you're not programming, you need to understand the rudiments of security. You need to understand how these things work. So imagine an account auditor that does not understand accounting, but he wants to audit the books. It's not possible. So for you to be a proper GRC analyst, you have to understand the rudiments of cybersecurity or information security and IT. Then we have the cloud security. So the idea is for you to secure cloud environments like Amazon Web Service, the Microsoft Azure, and Google GCP environments. So a lot of people are going into cloud these days, and we're getting more vacancies in that regard. Now, don't forget, you still have other vendors, Oracle Cloud, even some indigenous ones. So that is why cloud security skills, you should, it's a place I would encourage people to go to too. Then you have application security. Basically, what you're doing here is to help developers to ship secure code, meaning that, so a lot of people develop software applications, but they don't do it in a secure manner. So you help them catch the vulnerabilities and make recommendations when and where necessary. And then we have the incident response. Now, so what is incident response? So when things break, you're the firefighter. So meaning that when there's an incident, yours is to respond to that incident. So imagine there's an intrusion right now. So your own is to make sure that you respond to that intrusion before things even get worse than they actually are. That is what. Then there's the other part of it, which is also the digital forensics. So you could get incident response, or is the digital forensics and incident response team. So what is forensics? You are investigating footprints. How did this come about? When did it come about? Why did it come about? So this is a plan, a 5-phase plan, where you go from 0 to hired in phases. So phase 1, which is like month 1 to 2, you look at the rudiments, which is the foundations. And then phase 2, which is month 3, you now specialize. After you do the foundation, you now decide, where do I want to go? Now, don't forget, we had some specializations here. So any of these or any other specialization outside this in security. Then also, you now do hands-on labs. So it's not good enough to say, you can do tutorials, you can do all of that, but you can do hands-on labs. You find them online. You even have things like Try Hack Me, those kind of applications. And then there are some inexpensive trainings that you could do too. So you use like months 3 to 5 to immerse yourself in those hands-on labs. Then months 4 to 6, you write certifications. ISC2 certified in cybersecurity, Security Plus, or if you're doing maybe the CEH, or depending on what area you're looking at, ISO 27001, 22301, business continuity, 27001 is information security management systems. Then phase 5, which is months 5 to 6, you create a portfolio of jobs you've done. Now, when we say jobs you've done, even if you don't have a real life job, all the hands-on labs you've been doing, document them. That is experience in itself. Then you build your foundations. So how do you build the foundation? Let's go back to the basics. So I said, regardless of where you're going, even if it's GRC, you must learn the rudiments. So we have things like networking basics. You need to understand TCP/IP. Of course, because everything in cybersecurity works over internet protocol. So if you don't understand it, how would you know what to do? The OSI model, that you need to understand. Then ports, you have different ports for different functions. Port 443, different ports, what are they for? You need to understand. Then HTTP, HTTPS, secure and non-secure communication. Then virtual private networks, VPNs, is deeper than we think it is. A lot of us just think VPN is just that thing that you download and you just activate because you want to seem like you're from another country. It's beyond that. Then firewalls. Then you need to know the rudiments of operating systems, the Windows fundamentals. For people that want to go deeper, Linux command line, you cannot be a pen tester and not know Linux properly. It doesn't make sense. Then core security concepts, you need to understand the CIA triad, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Then you need to understand threats, the threat landscape. Then also you need to understand what vulnerabilities are, how they function, and then understand risk management from identification to profiling to treatment. Then defense in depth, you need to understand that too. Then especially for those that are going into maybe pen test or something, you could learn a little scripting, like basic Python or Bash scripting, basically. So just enough to be able to read and modify, not to build apps. So some free or cheap resources here. Professor Mesa on YouTube has probably the most wholesome Network Plus and Security Plus course you can find. Then Cisco Networking Academy has free networking courses. I spoke about Try Hack Me earlier. You have the pre-security part, which is friendly to beginners. Then we have what we call Over the Wire Bandits. You learn Linux by playing, like gamified manner. And then you have the Google Cybersecurity Professional Certificate. If you go there and apply for a scholarship, it's on Coursera. You would even get it for free. Then you specialize. So you pick a lane and you commit. So when you are everywhere, you would struggle to get hired. So you need to pick one lane and you go in depth for like 3 months. Just immerse yourself. And then you can always pivot later. But please dwell on something. So if you prefer building or breaking systems or shaping policy, so if you want to build or break systems, you would, you're looking at being a SOC analyst, a pen tester, an application security person, or a cloud security person. If you're more inclined towards the governance side, you're looking at governance, risk, and compliance. And then if you are energized by hunting attackers or hardening defenses, things like threat hunting, and then being a SOC or application security or cloud person to help to harden your defense systems. And if you have a coding background, even if it's basic, then you do well in the application security, cloud security, and detection engineering parts. So one thing, please, do not look at SOC. Do not look at for especially GRC as your first entrance, meaning that at least learn the rudiments of security. Don't just from day one, you've not learned the rudiments of security and you want to do GRC. Like I said, you will fail at it. So you get your hands dirty. I've given us some platforms we can use, like Try Hack Me. It's like the best starting point for new entrants. So you have Catch the Flag, CTS for beginners, and then they have affordable subscriptions. Some parts are free, I think. Then we have Hack the Box, the same thing. So you start at the beginner's point and you grow. They even, I think Hack the Box or Try Hack Me even have a certification now. Then you do Blue Team Labs or Let's Defend. So you go on that platform too. So you choose, for instance, SOC, Real Alert Investigations, and Incident Response Simulations. Then you build a home lab. Get a computer that has 8, 16 gig RAM, SSD preferably, a Core i5 or Core i7 preferably. Install a virtual box or a VM, anyway, virtual machine, then Kali Linux, and then Metasploit, which is where you see like vulnerable machines for practice. And then, these are free resources, but they are very powerful. Then you can have cloud sandboxes. So you can use the free tier of AWS, for instance, or Microsoft Azure, and all of that. And then you can create security challenges and solve them. Then you document everything. So again, I used to have a boss that told me, if you do not document, it does not exist. So like I said, every lab you do, document it. A short write-up, put it on GitHub or even a blog. You can start a blog to show your journey, and then that becomes your portfolio. So some certifications can pay off and would see some. So for people that are just starting off, the ISC2 certified in cybersecurity, which by the way, stops being free on the 20th, 2 days away from now. So after this class, just go and register, just Google ISC2 certified in cybersecurity. It's free and register for it. You can write the exam on a later date. Then the CompTIA Security Plus, it's industry standard. So it gives you the rudiments and a bit more of security. Then when you look at if you want to be a blue teamer or you want to be a SOC person, a security operations center person, you do the blue team level 1 certification. And then CompTIA or CompTIA, they have what you call the CISA Plus. That is a blue team certification too. And then you can do the Splunk Core Certified User Certification. Then for the pen testers, you have what we call the eLearn Junior Penetration Tester. Start from there. I mean, it's a good place to start. Then even the CompTIA has what we call the Pen Test Plus. Then you have other certifications like the EC Council Certified Ethical Hacker. Then the OSCP, when you get more advanced, then you do the OSCP. The OSCP is one of the most renowned, what do you call it, penetration testing certifications, but it is not for beginners, please. Then when we look at GRC or compliance, we look at the ISC2 certified in cybersecurity. Now, why? Because you must understand elements of cybersecurity. So that is why it is a good certification to start with. Then also, you can do the you can also still do the Security Plus if you're going into GRC. Then you can, for a start, you can start with the ISO 27001 foundation. Then you go on to do the implementer, the auditor, and then the auditor. Then later on, you do what you call this C-risk. It's basically information systems risk or information security risk. And then you have the CISA, which is information security or information systems auditor. That is as you advance. You even have certifications like the ISC2 certified in governance risk and compliance, CGRC, and some other certifications. Then cloud security, you can start from the AWS cloud practitioner all the way to the AWS security specialty. And then you can start with the Azure, Microsoft Azure Foundations, which is the AZ900, all the way to the SC900, which is the specialist level. Then phase 5 is where you build a portfolio. How do you do that? Now, recruiters go beyond CVs. They scan portfolios. So make yourself impossible to ignore. Create a GitHub repo, of your write-ups. So your scripts that you have, your admin configurations, and then your readmes should be very clean and make them public. And then have an active LinkedIn presence. Now, post often, like weekly, what you have learned, what lab you solved, explain the concept. However, please don't just go and do copy and paste from AI. Let people relate to you. Let them know that, let it seem like you're having a conversation with them. And then even a blog or a Medium, have a page on Medium. One post a month is good enough for a start. And then you teach what you've learned. And then Now, when beginners are teaching beginners, it makes you a better beginner because you're pouring out your knowledge and it makes you even know it better. Then you network on purpose. So you can DM 3 people per week. You can join different cyber communities like the one that has brought us here for for this for this webinar right now, and then attend meetups. Just last week we had our CSEAN or Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria conference, and people from everywhere came, not just Nigeria. People came from the US, the UK, Canada, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, different places. And it was a good place to meet people. And I'll tell you one thing for sure. I struck relationships at that conference. In fact, I struck a business partnership at that conference. And it brings me to the next point where if you network on purpose, not disturbing people, network strategically, people can also refer you. Someone works with me right now, and he started working with me after the conference. That is because we networked at the conference. And, here we are today. Today, he works with me. So there are some free and affordable resources. So some global free or low-cost resources are TryHackMe, Hack the Box Academy, Coursera, we have Cybery, we have YouTube, we have Microsoft Learn and AWS Skill Builder. It is free. And then the certified in cybersecurity by ISC2, in 2 days' time, it would not be free again. Then some Nigerian and African communities. We have CyberSafe. In fact, first of all, this platform we're on is one of the communities. Then, we have some other ones. Join the local chapter. For instance, join the local chapter of an organization like the Cybersecurity Experts Association of Nigeria. And then even where we are doing this webinar from, it's a good opportunity to be here because it's a learning opportunity. It's a learning opportunity, and you do not want to miss that learning opportunity. So it is good to be a member of this community too. It's very good to be a member of the community, which is the Job Hunters community. So please spread the word about the Job Hunters community. Job Hunters community is doing a really great job trying to connect people to skills and to opportunities. So please do well to even share what this community is doing. So the Nigerian cyber job market, who is hiring? We're looking at banks and fintechs. We're looking at telecommunication companies and ISPs, that is internet service providers. We're looking at Big Four and consulting. We have the PwC, Deloitte, EY, KPMG. We have other companies like Forbes, Mazars. Then there are remote jobs too. So a lot of people that do things like SOC analysts and all of that. I know someone as we speak, although she stayed there before relocating back to Nigeria or coming back to Nigeria, and she still kept her job in Canada and she works from Nigeria. So what's the typical monthly pay? Like I said, it depends. A SOC analyst, depending, can go from 300,000-400,000 naira all the way to 900,000 naira. Same, a GRC analyst all the way to even over $1 million. A pen tester up to like 1.5. A cloud security person up to almost 2 million. As you grow, I did not say that you learn a skill today and in 3 months you are earning 5 million. It happens, but it does not happen every other time. Seek to grow, the opportunities would come. So how do you land your first role? First of all, you tailor every CV. So you don't use one CV for every application. You look at the requirements of the application and tailor to the needs of the application. Then you lead with projects, not adjectives. So, for instance, you've put on your CV, investigated 12 phishing alerts in TryHackMe SOC simulations. It beats saying Passionate cybersecurity enthusiast. There's no action to that. But the first one shows that you actually did something. Then you apply where you have a referral. So a lot of times that there are referrals, it's easier to get roles there. That is why you should network. So when you network, it's easier to get referrals. Then you master the STAR interview method. What is that? Situation, task, action, and result. So you prepare like a couple of stories you can adapt to any behavioral question. So what was the situation? What was the task carried out? And what action was taken? What was the result of that action? And then you negotiate your first offer. So now, if the offer is not okay with you, or you're not okay with the offer, sorry, negotiate to something more comfortable. Sometimes you put wisdom. Sometimes what you may not get in money, you may get in experience, and then you can move on. So assess the situation properly. Now, there are some pitfalls that keep beginners stuck. Number one, you're chasing certifications without skills. Certifications are lovely. They validate your skills, but they go hand in hand. So don't just stack certifications and then you have 0 hours of hands-on work. Then ignoring the soft skills. You think, I want to be a cybersecurity person. I just want to know how to use Linux and all of that. Communication is key. If you cannot communicate properly, if you cannot write a relatable report, then you cannot even get promoted or employed in the first place. Then quitting too early. Sometimes you feel because maybe the money is not enough, but you may be getting experience. There's something I will tell you for free. Consistency would outweigh a whole lot, even when you need to move on. When your next employer when they see how consistent you were in another place, it is a plus for you. Now, there's something called the tutorial hell. You want to watch all the tutorials in the world. Then you won't even open a terminal to even do anything the tutorial says. You just want to watch. You can only learn by doing. So when you're learning a language, for instance, you're learning Spanish, you cannot learn Spanish without speaking Spanish. So that is it. If you watch all the tutorials, if you do not speak it now and then it's going to be useless or that learning approach is going to be useless to both you and the language. Then going it alone or doing it alone. So you should join communities. Do not isolate yourself. So they say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So if you want to go far, go together. Yes, so the link for the ISC2 free certification has been pasted on the comment section. So if you do only this, you'll be ahead 90% of the beginners. Why? First of all, days 1 to 30, foundations plus your first pass. So you finish the cybersecurity certification or Professor Mesa Security Plus. I recommend you do a Network Plus and then a Security Plus if you have the time. That is with Professor Mesa. Then you start Try Hack Me, the pre-security, and through the complete beginner's part, and then you set up GitHub and the fresh professional LinkedIn profile, or you edit your existing one. And then post one thing you learned each week on LinkedIn. Then days 31 to 60, pick your lane and go deep. So choose a specialization. Now, book and pay for an entry certification in that direction. Complete 4 relevant labs or write-ups, and then write up each one. So each lab you do a write-up for each one. And then join cyber communities. It's good to join local cybersecurity communities. Why? Because we're talking about opportunities within Nigeria. So as much as you should join international ones, don't get left out in local opportunities and introduce yourself. These are things that have worked for me. In business, I've moved ahead because of communities. So if I tell you join communities and be active in the communities, trust me, it helps. Then days 61 to 90, build, polish, and apply. So pass your certification, update your CV and your LinkedIn on the same day, and then publish 3 portfolio projects on GitHub, and with clean readmes will show the instructions, and then apply to 5 or more tailored roles each week. You can do even more. And then do at least 2 mock interviews with peers or a mentor. So do mock interviews, they help. So 3 things to remember. Skills are greater than, skills, you have to build something real, and then a working lab beats a stack of paper credentials every single time. So skills, I don't want to use the word are greater than certificates and degrees, but skills complement your certificates and your degrees. And then consistency over intensity. So put in 8 hours every week for 6 months, it will get you hired, or it can get you hired, because you are putting in the work. And then start in public, meaning document your journey from day one. Even people would see you and probably employ you. So the best time to start was a year ago, and the second best time is today. Thank you very much. I don't know, we could possibly take 1 or 2 questions. You could just type your question in the chat box. Thank you, Priska. Thank you, Neka. Thank you, Grace, Gabriel Math, Samuel Victoria, Jeremiah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. It was an honor being with you and everyone here throughout this class. And we hope to have more sessions. Look out in this space, look out at the job hunter space, and there will be a lot. There's a lot coming. So please look out the job hunter space. Thank you everyone for appreciating me. I had an amazing time and hope to see more of you. See you some other time. All right then, it's goodbye from me.